In order to take a break from work and life, Robert Helms took a week's vacation. At 54, his job as a college history professor was coming to an end, and his years of service and age allowed for early retirement in a few months. His investments had increased manifold, and money was the least of his worries. What he lacked was communication. Over the past year, his wife, Rosanna, 52, has spent most of her time writing her latest fiction novel. He tried to tear her away from this activity, but when she immersed herself in writing, she managed to isolate herself from everything and everyone. As he drove up to his home on the Jersey Shore, he noticed a package on the doorstep. "Let's see what we have here." He grinned, opening the well-packed package. Oh, a book written by Maxine Bolt, Roseanne's pseudonym. He looked at the title and was forced to sit down on the swing in front of the porch. Confession of a Deceiver. He saw a note taped to the cover from his old Army buddy, Private Sanderson, who worked in the publishing house. "I saw that this is your wife's new book. She has a wild mind, my friend. Sandy." Her other novels had been detective and crime novels, so this seemed like a big change to him. The title interested him, and since it was already about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, he had little time left to start reading. As darkness fell, the small lantern on the porch gave him enough light to continue reading her book, but several times he had to stop reading, not because he was tired, but because he was overcome with anger. "This bitch is a lying ass," he sighed, finishing the last chapter at 4 in the morning the next day. He heard his phone beep and pulled it out of his pants pocket. It was his daughter, Lisa. "Hello." "Daddy, I called you all night. I was worried." "Why didn't you answer my calls?" "I was reading your mom's new fucking book." "Oh no, I was hoping you didn't get a copy." "This is fiction, Daddy. Please understand this. Did your slutty mother tell you to say that?" "Fiction in my ass. There are too many facts here not to be real. Yes, the names are different, but history literally repeats our lives. You do understand that this means that you are not my daughter?" "She told me it wasn't true. There's no way Uncle Roy could be my father, and even so, you will always be my real father." "Where did you get the book from?" "It wasn't supposed to be on sale for a few weeks, but my mom said it was being replaced." He didn't want to get Sandy, his friend, into trouble, so he answered the question with a question. "How did you see it?" She didn't answer. "You saw the draft before it was sent to the publisher, didn't you?" "Yes, I found it and told my mom to make changes. She said she would, but I guess she didn't." "I'm so sorry, Dad. My own daughter is keeping secrets from me, and now she says she's worried about me. Damn, the whole world will know what a cuckold I've been for the last 30 years. I'll tell you what, Lisa, stay away from me, otherwise I'll say something that I'll regret later, and tell your slutty mother that I will begin divorce proceedings on Monday." He hung up. The phone immediately buzzed again, but he turned it off. Rosanna has not received a response from her publisher regarding the timing of the book's publication date. Over a month ago, after talking with Lisa, she realized that changes needed to be made and made several radical adjustments, adding omissions, time, location, and relationships. Her editor's assistant said they were still discussing the form, but were unsure of the final decision. She used writing this novel as a personal confession of the numerous adulteries she committed during her 30-year marriage to Robert. It was like confessing to a priest, which would help her absolve herself of guilt. The book describes the life of a wife leading 2 lives. One is a devoted, loving wife, and the second is a lying slut. She knew that the book would sell in large quantities. She was sitting in her New York loft when the phone rang. "Lisa, why are you calling so early in the morning? Everything is fine." "Oh God, Mom, Dad knows. He received a copy of your book and I don't think your changes were made to it. He even blamed me and hung up." "What?" "They promised me that changes would be made to the final version ready for printing. They have not yet confirmed that they have made my changes." "What did he say?" "He said that history repeats our lives verbatim, and that means that I am not his daughter. God, I rewrote this entire chapter, and there was no daughter born to one of her lovers. Where is he? I haven't spoken to him for over a week. Much more time has passed. None of us have heard from you for almost a month. I'm surprised you even answered my call this morning. I'm really sorry. Now that the book is finished, I was planning to go to Europe with your father and you to celebrate its release. Lisa was furious. Well, you can forget about going somewhere with Dad. He said you've been cuckolding him for 30 years and that you should stay away from him, and I feel the same now. Goodbye. Lisa, don't hang up. But she was no longer there. She tried calling the publisher, but it was too early, and it went to voicemail. Helen, this is Rosanna Helm. I have a serious problem. Or should I say you do, with my book. I sent you the changes and they told me they are in the works. Now I hear that the book was published and sent to my husband without changes, and he is ready to divorce me. Since I didn't sign the final seal, I'm going to sue you for as much as I can. First of all, you better stop this fucking printing. Her whole body trembled as she collapsed on the floor and covered her face with her hands. Oh God, no. Please. I can't lose the only man I've ever loved. What a stupid piece of shit I've been for 30 fucking years, Robert said out loud, raising his 5th shot of Jack Daniels to his lips and taking a long sip. He remembered that the book was about her first betrayal with a man with whom she went to Martha's Vineyard. The book said his name was Jerry, but he remembered it was their insurance agent, Perry. Kind of rhymed, doesn't it? So she had sex with Perry in the boathouse while he and Perry's wife sat on the balcony drinking wine. The next day, they had to prepare the yacht for the cruise. Fucking Perry. How could she sleep with that asshole? He didn't ask anyone. And according to the book, she was the one who seduced him. A few chapters later, the book described how she had sex with her husband's brother without a condom and became pregnant. She was delighted that the child looked like her husband's family and that her husband would not discover a problem. She described Lisa down to the birthmark on her right shoulder. This wasn't a fucking fictional novelle. There were 3 more mentions of adultery and even a gangbang with 4 men during a trip to Florida. He remembered the trip she took to finish her previous book, and that was only 6 years ago. It was in this chapter that group sex was described. After reading it, he had to run to the porch railing to throw up. It was too early to call a lawyer to start filing a divorce. However, he managed to open his bank account online and froze all joint accounts. He knew he had a trust account set up for him by his parents, and she couldn't touch him. Money wouldn't be an issue for either of them, since she had made so much from the sales of her previous books. And this book, once it turns out that it is basically true, will sell like crazy. Fucking bitch. She planned this to get the attention of the press. He was beside himself with rage, but when he sat down, his mood sank to the point of complete destruction. For the first time since his father's death, he cried until he couldn't cry anymore. Roseanne was shaking with anger and fear when her editor, Helen, texted her back. Roseanne, this is Helen Myers. The book was not supposed to be printed and sent out until the 20th of the month. The factory must have made a mistake in putting the date on the 2nd of the month. Only a few hundred copies were supposed to be sent out to the Book of the Month Club members, who would receive them before bookstores. I have no idea who sent your husband a copy. Please accept my condolences. She picked up the phone, but Helen did not answer, so she wrote back, Too late. The one person who shouldn't have read it got it. Now I have everything I wanted in life, except the main person I want to grow old with. Robert finally fell asleep on the sofa and was completely passed out until he heard the door to the house on the coast open. Slowly waking up, he remembered the nightmare and collapsed back. After a while, he felt soft fingers brush across his forehead. He grabbed the man's wrist and pushed him back, with force. He heard a crash and saw his cheating wife leaning against the wooden coffee table. What the hell are you doing here? Robert, please. I think my shoulder is injured. It hurts. He wanted to hurt her more, but he realized that he still loved her. Sorry, let me help you up. At 52, she was in good shape, but she was getting too old for such a fall. She grabbed onto his body and was able to sit on the couch where he was sleeping. Maybe we should call an ambulance? He asked, hoping the police wouldn't be called and there wouldn't be a report of abuse. She slowly moved and realized that it was not serious. No, I already had such pain, as you remember. I came to make sure you were okay. I'm really sorry, and... How could you lie to me all these years? You made me a cuckold, Rosanna, thinking that you only love me, and you have fucked who knows how many other men. And now you're telling the whole fucking world about it. You wrote that, I'm terrible in bed, and that fucking ending where you and I buy a house on the islands and live happily ever after. Go to hell. It was a make-believe, baby. Most of the sex was fake to create tension and justify the wife. You have never let me down in bed. In addition, no one will think that the actions are very similar to our lives. Tell me you didn't write this book thinking that when people found out it was your biography, it would be a bestseller. God, Robert, I would never intentionally tell someone that my life was a slutty whore and would hurt both Lisa and you. Please, baby, this is my latest book and I want to travel the world with you. It was just sex. I ask you again, have you ever loved me? Yes. Today, I love you more than ever before. I didn't want you to read this book. It was in draft form, not approved, and was in the process of being changed. I thought that changing names and dates would be enough to fool everyone. Lisa read the draft before I got a good review. Why do I need you to know about all the bad things I've done? How could you tell me that Lisa was mine, while my brother was probably laughing at me? This was not planned. It was the night we all had too much to drink and you passed out on the couch. I went to bed and thought it was you who came into my room, but it was Roy, as I discovered the next morning. He fucked me from behind, and I thought it was you. I just stopped taking the pills and was hoping I could get pregnant with you. Having fallen asleep, I woke up in an empty bed with traces of recent sex. I was happy until I found you on the living room floor in the same position you were in when you passed out. I quickly realized that it was Roy who had me, and hurried upstairs to douche. I couldn't risk you believing him and ordering a DNA test. He basically raped me while I was drunk. Please forgive me. But you are her father, no matter whose biological material. I call it bullshit, according to your fictional novelle, Confession of a Lear. Or should I say autobiography? What about all the other men you cheated with? She understood that her marriage was hanging by a thread and was about to end. My love for you is real, and betrayal has nothing to do with you. I lived two completely different lives. Real, heart-filled love with you, and a separate one. A slut who slept with other men. I never wanted to hurt you and foolishly wrote the confession of a slut, not thinking that it coincided too closely with our life together. I was shocked when Lisa read the draft, but I was grateful that she told me how real it sounded. I called Helen straight away and she said she would stop it, but I don't think anyone reported it to the printer or distribution department. I pray you don't believe I did this on purpose to sell books. Why should I want people to believe what a slut I was? Well, now I know that, so it's all over between us. But only a few people could get the book and... She stopped when her phone buzzed and she saw Helen's name. You better have good news. Helen's voice was cheerful. Great news. We were able to stop the mail truck before it left the dock. Submission to the Book of the Month Club has been stopped. I am at a loss how the book got to your husband. I ordered the destruction of this batch of books. Please find out who sent it to him and take the book back. Rosanna was still in pain, covering the microphone of her phone. None of the books have been sent, and they will be destroyed. Looks like you somehow got the one. How did you get it? Oh, fuck off with your book publisher. What book are you talking about? He grinned. I never received the book. She knew that the book was evidence of her past infidelity and could be used in court against both her and the publisher. So that's it, huh? Are you giving up on our marriage? He laughed. From what marriage? The one where we met, fell in love, exchanged vows to honor and cherish, not to mention leave everyone else behind? Or the one where your other self had sex with other guys, cuckolded me, and let me raise another bastard's child? Helen said it was only supposed to be sent to members of the Book of the Month Club. They stopped sending it out so no one knows. Well, I got a copy, and I know what kind of rotten rubbish I lived with. Seeing you makes me want to puke. Get out of my family's beach house. I'll call my lawyer to sue your damn distributor and start divorce proceedings. Honey, I know I hurt you, but we need this to be quiet. If the press gets wind of this, demand for copies of the book will surpass all sales records. Even if we both sue the publisher, they will still make a fortune. Wasn't that your intention? Should you ignore your husband's respect if you reach the top of the bestseller list? God, I would never do this to you for fame and money. I love you, baby. She reached out to hug him, but he pushed her away. I'll go to a psychologist to find out why I keep doing this. So you didn't stop? Damn me. You did more after submitting the draft. If I hadn't found out, you were still going to have sex with others. You definitely haven't slept with me for the last 2 months. She lowered her eyes and didn't say anything, so he knew it was true. Who else, Rosanna? Someone I know? And is it important? She snapped back. It was a long time ago. After that, I didn't sleep with anyone. Hell, yes, this is important. If I see them, I will know that they fucked my wife, and in your ass. Most of the book, especially this part, was fictional. So, the 4 men who made you airtight? Your ass was on, right? She lowered her eyes. You're still lying. Go to hell, Maxine. He decided that from now on she would be called that way. I'm going for a walk on the beach. When I get back, you and your shit better disappear. The sealed part was fictitious. Leave. As Robert walked along the beach, he was relieved that hundreds or thousands of readers would not find out how she had cuckolded him. He quickly called Private Sanderson. Sandy, this is Robert. I'm just warning you not to stick your neck out. The book was not supposed to be published, and the one you sent me was the only one. Yeah, dude, I know. Shit has hit the fan and rumors are flying everywhere. There are rumors that this was leaked to the press. Apparently, the book I sent you was not the only copy sent to friends and family. The local leadership showed extreme laxity in ignoring this practice. Thanks for the info. Just lay low. Robert returned to the beach house and saw that his wife's car was missing, but in its place was his daughter's car. Previously, he was harsh with Lisa, but now he will calmly listen to her story. She was waiting for his arrival. Dad, I'm so sorry. I didn't tell you because I didn't want you to get hurt, and I didn't want you to know that you're not my dad. He saw that her eyes were red and swollen from crying. She ran towards him and stopped to make sure he would hug her. Robert raised his arms, and she flew into his body. I will always be your daddy, baby. I love you now more than ever. Now tell me how you discovered the draft and what you told your mom. When my mother was spending a week in Bermuda, she asked me to water the plants in her loft. She said I could stay and enjoy Manhattan. I'm glad I did because I met Luque at the Metropolitan Museum of Art, and we started dating. My iPad was dead, so I used her desktop computer to make dinner reservations. She always keeps her password under her mouse pad and doesn't close her text file. When I saw the title, Confession of a Liar, I cried when I read about how she had sex with her brother-in-law and got pregnant. She had to sit down. When she returned and came in, I was sitting in the living room. She was happy to see me until I pushed her away and told her I had read her draft. Robert stopped her. You said she went to Bermuda? Yes, about 3 months ago. And what? The penultimate chapter talked about a trip to Bermuda to promote her book. It said that the husband was in the dark, believing that she was visiting an aunt in Vermont. The chapter described how she discovered a plus-size black man. Did you notice the Queen of Spades tattoo on the lower part of her left leg? It means preference for dark-skinned sexual partners? No, I don't remember seeing her when she returned. Robert sighed and sat down, looking downcast. The tattoo was mentioned in the last chapter. How could I be so damn ignorant? She's right, my love and trust in her made me blind. It's time to raise hell. Roy Helms was drunk, sitting on the couch on the porch of his house. He'd been on a 3-day bender since he lost his last job at Bojangles Cafe. His third wife left him after his unemployment benefits ran out. His life turned to shit after he was dishonorably discharged from the army for bringing a slut into the barracks. It was very bad timing on his part when he called his last living relative his brother to borrow money. Hello, Bobby. This is your older brother, Roy. How are you? This was his 4th attempt at dialing the correct numbers on his cheap flip phone. What do you want, asshole? Hey, is it really possible to talk to your brother like that? Robert didn't know if Roy knew he was Lisa's biological father, and he certainly wasn't going to tell him. "What do you need?" "Well, I lost my job and I need money for food. You know I also have a share in a house on the coast." "Bullshit. I paid you half the price of the house 10 years ago. You signed the papers. Damn it, Roy, don't tell me you blew $160,000. My second wife cleaned me out." He decided that it was time to check how true Roseanne's novel was. "If you answer the following question truthfully, I will give you $500. Now understand, I'm 99% sure I already know the answer. If you lie, you'll never get anything again." He pressed the record button. "Yes, I'll tell the truth. You fucked Rosanna 22 years ago. If you lie, you won't get money," asked Robert. Roy didn't answer for more than a minute. "Well," I hung up. "Maybe. Yes or no?" "Yes, but she seduced me." Roy wanted to tell him that he was dead, but he wanted a DNA sample first. "Okay, I think what you said is true. But if you want the money, I'll meet you halfway at the Goodson Grill in Meadville tonight at 7 p.m. Editor-in-Chief Helen Myers breathed a sigh of relief when she discovered that the first batch of novels had not been sent. However, a few books slipped through the cracks in the packaging department. She and most people grabbed first edition books and took them home. Hell, she even gave her sister the first few books she brought into her office. Her phone buzzed, and the name of CEO Thomas Alcott flashed on the screen. "Helen, can I help you, sir?" "Yes," he answered firmly. "Get me a copy of Maxine Bolt's latest novel immediately." "But, sir, it is not finished yet." "Damn, how the hell did my daughter get a copy?" "I do not know for sure. I just found out that several copies somehow found their way into the public domain. I'll try to get you a copy. I ordered them to be destroyed." "Do not destroy them. My daughter says this is the hottest book she's read all year, even better than 50 Shades. She couldn't tear herself away." "But, sir, the author did not approve of this draft, and someone made a mistake in sending it off for final printing and delivery. Don't destroy the books and get me a dozen. Bring them to my office as soon as possible." "Sir, I promised Roseanne that—" Robert left a message for the best man at their wedding, who was a senior partner in a large Atlanta law firm. "Ken, this is Robert Helms. I need to speak with your best divorce and litigation lawyers as soon as possible. You have my number." 20 minutes later, Robert's phone rang. It was Ken. "Hey, Bobby, I got your message and I'll give you a few names. I have alerted the entire practice so that you will be given high priority. What the hell is going on?" "My life just turned to shit," Robert growled. For the next half hour, the grief-stricken professor talked about the book and that it was a real confession of his slut, his future ex-wife. Ken fell silent, realizing how serious this matter could become. The publishing house Alpha Snow could easily receive millions in claims for damages caused to Robert, Roseanne, and even Lisa. "Ken, are you still here?" "Yes, I'm here. Where are you now?" "In a house on the coast." "And what?" "Because I'll be there tomorrow morning. And don't lose this book. Try to find out how many books are missing. I'll take care of this damn thing myself. Have you spoken to Roseanne?" "Did you talk? I kicked her cheating ass out of here this morning after she admitted to cheating for most of our marriage." "Fuck it, Ken. She admitted that she had sex with Roy. In the book, the wife gave birth to a child from sex with the heroine's brother-in-law, so it's safe to say that Roy is Lisa's biological dad." "Holy crap," Ken sighed. "If this becomes known, this book will destroy all sales records. This alone will ultimately bring us millions of dollars." "Let's not get carried away," Robert said sadly. "Being the world's biggest cuckold isn't all that attractive." "Hey, my head is pounding. Let's talk tomorrow. Good night, Ken." "Hold on, buddy. I'm sorry to hear about Roseanne. I never would have thought." "Yes, me too." Helen postponed the destruction of the books, and, satisfied that they were well protected, took a dozen to take to Mr. Alcott. She decided that he wanted to give them to his lawyers in case there were any legal proceedings. They took an inventory and decided that about 44 books were missing. A dozen books wrapped in plastic lay on a cart, followed by a security guard. When she entered the executive suite, she was shown to the huge boardroom and saw that most of the board members were already waiting. "Sorry, but Mr. Alcott asked me to bring him these books and—" "I'm here," Alcott said firmly behind her. She saw the implementation director sitting nervously in the corner. "Sit down, Helen, and tell us from the beginning what happened." "Yes, sir. Our best writer, Rosanna Helms, sent us a draft of her new novel for review, Confession of a Deceiver. It was scheduled for publication on the 20th of this month in the Members of the Month Club, but was printed, circulated by mistake, and did not receive the author's final approval." Board President Jason Boston chimed in. "What's wrong with that? I mean, there's only been a few books out, right? This has happened before." Helen looked at Tom. "The main problem is that Rosanna wrote a book that is very closely related to her real life. If and when she comes out, it will destroy her family, if it hasn't already." One of the books was sent in advance to Rosanna's husband, Robert Helms. He called his wife about the very close resemblance and is now filling out divorce papers. She's already threatening to sue us, and I'm sure he will too. I promised her that these books would be destroyed. Apparently, other books were taken by other employees, but we don't have an exact figure for how many were taken. Tom sighed and asked another question. "Helen, was your promise to Rosanna only verbal?" She didn't understand what he was getting at, and answered, puzzled. "Well, yes, but why don't we want these books to be destroyed?" "Okay, Helen, that's all. You are free." "But you are free." After she left, he turned to the sales director. "Start printing this book and don't stop until I tell you to." Roy sat nervously in the small diner, waiting for his brother. His hands were shaking from lack of money for drinks. He stood up and drank a glass of water when he saw his brother approach the table. Hi, Bobby." "Long time not seen," he said loudly, standing up. But Robert quickly moved to the seat opposite him. "Sit," Robert growled. He noticed a glass of water. He'll take it back later for DNA testing. "Can I help you, sir?" asked the elderly, bleached, toothless waitress. Grease and ketchup stains covered her faded gray apron. The jukebox nearby was playing "Your Deceitful Heart," Patsy Cline. "Bring him a menu," Robert said, not wanting to call him his brother. "We have sweet pie here. Will you eat too?" "No, how about you bring us a couple of beers?" He saw Roy smile at the mention of drinking. He set his smartphone to record and put it in his shirt pocket. After the waitress took Roy's food order, he asked Roy a big question. "I need you to tell me again what happened that night between my wife and you." Roy must have rehearsed this because he spat out the same story he told Robert on the phone. He wanted recognition, so it didn't matter who seduced whom. It didn't sound like Rosanna was claiming rape. After Roy had eaten his lunch, Robert gave him $500 and said that was all. "Now you are dead to me." Roy burst into tears and said that he was very sorry and that Robert was the only family he had left. "You should have thought about that before you had sex with my wife." Robert said nothing more, put Roy's empty glass in his jacket, stood up, and left. Later that day, Helen was pouring coffee when she saw an employee sitting in the break room reading Confession of a Liar. "Sorry, but this book is not available for distribution. Where did you get it?" "In the company bookstore. It's just been put on sale." The pretty young secretary smiled. "I bought 3 pieces for my mother, aunt, and myself. Rumor has it that this book is mostly true. I can't tear myself away from her." "Shit," Helen said, and rushed to her office to call her boss, RJ. "What the hell happened to Rosanna's book?" RJ Smith cleared his throat. "I left you a message to tell you that the book will be released in the form in which it is." It was somehow shaky, with the officialness that the author slowed down its release. I mean, nothing was received in writing. "This is nonsense, RJ. The fucking lawyers and board of directors knew this version would be a hit. They are willing to take the legal route, knowing that monetary gain will negate personal claims. Look, keep this to yourself if you want to keep your job. Looks like we're all getting a big Christmas bonus this year. Also, you need to ghost Rosanna. Roseanne was lying passed out on the sofa when sunlight came through the almost closed curtains. She managed to open her right eye halfway and saw only 3 empty wine bottles lying on the floor between the sofa and her slippers. These were days of tears and self-calling. Usually, when she felt this terrible, she would rely on her husband, Robert. But that option was no longer available. And the relationship with my daughter also deteriorated. She suddenly felt a knot in her stomach and staggered up the short flight of stairs to the hall bathroom. She failed and lost consciousness again, falling onto the contents of her stomach. After a while, she looked up when the door to her apartment opened. "Mother! Oh my God!" Lisa screamed. "I'm so sorry, Lisa. I really tried to change this story. How could I be so stupid as to write all the crap I did? Oh my God! Your father hates me." Lisa lifted her to her feet and led her half-bent into the master bathroom. Somehow, Rosanna managed to undress while Lisa was preparing a stream of warm water. She turned around to see her naked mother holding onto the towel rack. She still looked damn good for a woman in her 50s. "Are you comfortable taking a shower alone?" "Yes, baby. I'm so upset, and I hate that you see me like this." Even though Lisa was disgusted by what her mother did, she still loved her. "Take your time, and I'll go down and clean up." Later, when Roseanne returned downstairs, Lisa was watching TV when the screen showed "Confession of a Deceiver." An advertisement popped up on the screen. "Mom, come here." Roseanne felt better until she saw the ad. "Oh no, they promised." The Barbie-style blonde smiled and said, "Is this fiction or fact? Look for it at your favorite bookstore soon. Buy it online and get a 10% discount. Hurry up before the queues form." Rosanna quickly called Helen but got a voicemail. "Hello, Helen won't be here today. Please leave a message. Buzzer. What happened to the destruction of books? Why would a publisher do this to one of their best authors? I think it's all Mom." "Why? Is Dad really so bad in bed that you had to sleep with half of North America?" "No, your dad is great in bed. I have always lived in isolation and never felt like a bad girl. To write novels from personal experience, I started stopping by for a drink after a long day of working, part-time and caring for you. At first I observed the actions and heard the conversations between men and women. What shocked me was the large number of married people. I met a woman I knew from school, and she told me how easy it is to compartmentalize your life." Lisa sighed. "So, you decided to try?" "At first, no, because I just needed to know what pickup lines and flirting were used. I started dancing with other men, playing along with them, and before we had to go to the motel, I went to the toilet and never came back. I became a bad girl about to do something serious." Lisa grinned. "And how long did it last?" "Never in bars. I was too nervous, afraid that your father would find out and I would get caught. I quickly discovered that the men I knew in everyday life were available for fun and games. Plus, it would be less dangerous to get an STD. Why did you even write this damn novel about your infidelity?" "As a Catholic, I have always believed in the need to confess my sins. But I couldn't say such terrible things in the confessional, so I decided to confess to a fictional novel. I remembered so many things about the many dates I went on. Somewhere I lost sight of the fact that these experiences were real, and when you discovered the draft, well, you know the rest. If I could start all over again, I wouldn't do it. The consequences of losing Robert and you were too severe. You really have lost everything, Mom. You've completely lost your father, and I'm not happy about being around you either." "Please don't say that. Your father and you have always been the meaning of life for me. Let's take a step back. Tell me about your new boyfriend." Well, I need to meet him in 30 minutes. So maybe when the divorce is finalized?" "Goodbye, Mom." Robert was trimming the hedges around his beach house when he heard a car approach the gravel driveway. He finished the bush he was working on and placed the trimmer on the patio. "Hi, Grandpa," Ken grinned, walking around the back of the house. "Man, you look like crap." Robert tried to smile back, but it didn't work. He came up and hugged his unexpected friend. "Thanks for coming, dude." Ken walked with Robert back to the large patio where they sat. "So, tell me everything. Do you mind if I record?" "No, Everything is okay, although I may fail a few times. For the next hour, Robert held nothing back. He talked about how many of the dates of the main characters in the book coincide with many moments in their lives. How did you manage to get a copy of the book before it was sent out for sale? Robert sighed and noticed that his friend didn't look shocked. It looks like you don't believe me. Well, now I'm going to regret saying this, but when we were roommates in college, Roseanne hit on me at a frat party. You guys were planning to get married, so I stayed away from her. You had just won the keg championship and were completely out. I drank a little less and somehow dragged you to our shared room. Rosanna helped me put you in bed on your side if you were sick. After taking a shower, I returned to my room wearing only a towel. I thought she had left, and when I came back, the light was off, and I felt for the bed. I slowly crawled under the sheet and felt her bare breasts pressed against my side. And why didn't you tell me? I was still drunk and ready to push her off the bed, but I was brain dead until she pushed me onto my back and started climbing on top. Now I'm finally going to fuck you, she whispered. Wait, stop, I shouted. I can't do this. Fuck off, bitch. She froze. You are sure? Hell no, but I wouldn't do that to my best friend who's about to propose to you. But he hasn't officially asked yet. I grabbed her by the hips and pushed her to the floor. She must have been in pain because she screamed. Robert sat down. Shit. I don't remember anything about that night, and the next day when I called her, she said she tripped and fell. When I came to her, she had a bandage on her forehead and one eye was black. Someone in our fraternity joked that I hit her. Why didn't you tell me? Hey, I knew you loved her and I didn't want to be the reason you broke up. Besides, she said she drank too much and begged me not to tell her. This bitch started back then. Her novel is just the tip of the iceberg. I looked at the website of the publishing house Alpha Snow and saw an announcement about a new novel by Maxine Bolt, Confession of a Liar. It says it will be out soon, Ken said, patting Robert on the back. Now I remember what I should have told you. They walked along the beach, and Ken said he would start a lawsuit against Alpha Snow and Roseanne. They both felt it was too late to get a stop sale order, so they wanted to get as much as they could and knew the case would cost tens of millions. Roseanne tried to contact her husband over the next few weeks, but he did a great job of ghosting. She also tried calling Helen and even higher-ups, but was told they were unavailable. However, those who hung up her phone were members of the media. Someone from the publishing company let slip that the hot fictional novel turned out to be not so fictional after all. When she left her room to go grocery shopping, a young woman was sitting in a car at the entrance. She jumped out, recognizing her. Mrs. Roseanne Helms? Yes, it's me. The woman handed her an envelope. Ma'am, you have been served. Roseanne froze as the bailiff took a photo of her holding the end of marriage documents. Sinking down onto the hard concrete steps, Roseanne covered her face with both hands. I thought today would be a good day. She chose some very good lawyers that day. Over the next 6 months, lawyers replaced each other. Things weren't going well for Robert until Helen and Sandy provided witness statements and emails confirming that the company knew the book had been published unchanged. The trial was scheduled, and it began. Suddenly, the law firm representing the publisher asked the judge to adjourn and called in lawyers and clients. The conversation dragged on until the judge announced that the publisher had made a counteroffer, including a decent percentage of future sales. She called a recess and sent the jury out. By that time, Robert had received more than $10 million. The publisher received much more, but his reputation suffered, and the money paid was significant. Lisa received a large settlement, enough to buy a nice apartment near her work and her future husband, Luke. She spent a lot of time with her father and periodically kept in touch with her mother. During this entire time, Robert refused to communicate with Roseanne. No one has provided evidence that all the dates listed in the book were real. All communication went through Ken, who provided evidence from Sandy and Helen, who, by the way, won the case for illegal dismissal from work. Robert wanted to do away with his wife completely, so he happily took half of their property and savings. She was so sad that she had hurt her loved one that she did not claim their joint investments or pension funds. She kept her city loft. and he kept their house in North Jersey, the beach house protected by a trust from his mom. A year later, Robert stood nervously in his tuxedo in the backyard of St. Anne's Church. He was in excellent shape and had an elegant, partially gray beard. Most of those present were already seated, including his ex-wife Rosanna, to whom he had not spoken since he kicked her out of their house on the coast. His daughter Lisa was in a room off to the side, preparing to walk down the aisle with him. He knew there were 10 minutes left before the official start time of the ceremony. Outside, in Nord, Aruba, the sun was shining brightly, but a constant wind kept it cool. "Hello, Robert," said a voice he knew well. When he turned towards her, she grabbed his wrist. He thought about pulling his hand away, but remained calm. Maxine. He remembered her name for the novels. His loving wife, Rosanna, left his life. Roseanne was glad he didn't yell or push her away, but being called that name hurt. "Life in Aruba has been good for you." He stood there without answering. The wedding music started playing, the door to the side room opened, and 3 bridesmaids came out in beautiful sea green dresses. "You should go and sit down," Robert whispered to his ex-wife. She reached up and kissed his cheek, and then whispered, "I didn't take a penny for myself from the lawsuit or book sales. Everything went to charity. And she also refused permission to make a film and write a sequel. I still love you, Robert, and always will. We did a great job creating Lisa. She told me that the DNA test proved that you are her biological father. Please leave me one dance at the reception." With tears in her eyes, she hurried back to her seat. The wedding procession began, and Lisa came out to take her father's hand. "Well, Daddy, we've got there," said Lisa, feeling that her eyes were watering. "You look great, baby," he said with difficulty. They've gotten a lot closer since Bad Romance came out. They settled out of court with the publishing company, receiving more money than Robert ever imagined. Thanks to his trust, the sale of his beach house and his pension payments, he has managed to avoid bad press for being a cuckold for 30-plus years. Of course, he ran away and bought a $7,000 Sacto FT summer home in Aruba, feet and 50 FTA sailboat moored at his private dock. He was lost in his thoughts. And then his daughter elbowed him. "Dad, it's time to give me up." "Necessarily?" She giggled. "Yes, but since Luke and I are moving here with you, I won't go far." Robert waited for the bride's entrance music to start playing. Rosanna came back and we talked a little. Lisa recently forgave her mother because she was a great mother. She knew about her mother's millions in donations to charity and how much she repented of what she did to her father. However, this was the first time he called her anything other than Maxine. When they approached the altar, the priest asked, "Who gives this woman as a wife?" Robert glanced at Rosanna, who was sitting at the end of the second row. "Her mother and I." He leaned towards her and, when she lifted her veil, kissed her on the cheek. He walked up to the front row and saw his new love sitting in a tight beige dress. Of course, she was 20 years younger than him, but he told everyone that she was mature for her age. Alice was his real estate agent who found him a house when he moved here. She was a widow with a 12-year-old son, whom Robert fell in love with. It was very painful for Roseanne to see her ex with a hot, beautiful woman, but at the same time she felt better knowing that he was moving on with his life. She was still rich enough to afford a house in North Jersey and was now looking for another here in Aruba. She knew it was over between her and Robert, but she didn't want to lose what little she had left with her daughter. Plus, the island was small enough that perhaps she could be close to it for a while. A few men tried to get into serious relationships with her, but most knew what a slut she was from her book and wanted in on the action. She compared the others to Robert, and they didn't get the credit they deserved. Suddenly, casual sex wasn't such a fun experience for her, so she took up cooking and soon began writing cookbooks. Her first cookbook was called Confession of an Eater. Subscribe to our channel so that your second chaff doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think about listening to the next one.